This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.
And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith on the Huddle Sports Network. Lots to talk about, but we're going to try to go rapid fire on this since it's a little bit late from our live feed. Our top story, the Pistons hire former Cleveland Cavaliers head coach J.B. Bickerstaff as head coach. I think it's a good one.
Yeah, I think it's a hire that I wouldn't have thought of at first glance, but when you think about going to the details of what happened, and when you realize that J.B. Bickerstaff was among the names at the top of the list of people that Trajan Langdon and the Pistons were looking towards getting in contact with, it makes all the more sense why this selection was made. When you think of the fact that, first and foremost, this is a 4-year deal. So they understand that this is not some type of show me now type of deal, or win now type of edict. They understand that this is a rebuild of a rebuild when you consider the damage that Troy Weaver had done to this organization and this roster with the moves he had done. But let's take a quick look at what J.B. Bickerstaff has done as of late. He did just take a Cleveland Cavaliers team that won 22 games the last season before he got there to a span to where at least they won 44 games in his last 3 seasons. That includes back-to-back consecutive runs in the playoffs, and it culminated this year to where the Cavaliers even went to the second round and were a couple games away from the Eastern Conference Finals before being ultimately eliminated by the eventual champion Boston Celtics. When you look at J.B. Bickerstaff, really, frankly, he comes off as a complete polar opposite in terms of pulse, look, style, sensibility, personality, body language, aura, whatever you want to describe it. It's the complete antithesis and opposite from what we see from Monty Williams. He's 45 years old, which means he still has tons of room to grow and develop and to make a name for himself as a coach in this league. And what better way to do it than take over another franchise that's been with its own struggles and what the Pistons have been dealing with, frankly, for the past decade plus, and see what you can make out of them. So I'm fine with the hire. I think when you consider the fact that this is a coach that, first and foremost, Rasheed Wallace did not like the fact that the Cavs had fired Bickerstaff like that. Some have reported, namely Brian Windhorst on ESPN was reporting that this may have been had to do with issues between Bickerstaff and Donovan Mitchell. Read into that what you will. But in terms of what he can get and what he can be a fit here, getting the most out of Cade, getting the most out of Jaden Ivey, getting the most out of Jalen Duren, I think he's the right coach for that. He is known for development. He is known for helping instill culture, and that's what the Pistons need right now most desperately. Bickerstaff is a coach that is going to, I believe, primarily focus on the defense, which is why why the team rather has made the decisions that they made in terms of hiring the assistant coaches for him, whether it be Luke Walton, who has experience, whether it being the Lakers head coach or being an assistant coach for the Golden State Warriors during their dynasty run, as well as hiring Kevin Burleson from Houston to be another assistant coach. Burleson was charged with player development. during his time on the Houston coaching staff. I expect that'll be the same here now that he'll be reunited with JB Bickerstaff, since Bickerstaff was an assistant coach with the Rockets around that same time. But there's a general idea of a theme of what I'm seeing here, and it extends past the front office, is try to get the most of what we can out of our core, most especially Cade Cunningham.
Yes, and speaking of Cade Cunningham, they've signed him to a 5-year contract extension worth $224 million at minimum, with incentives that could total it up to like $269 million. Trying to find the banner for this, but I can't find it. We apologize for the inconvenience, but
Everyone that is aware of the news by now, they know that Cade has signed the deal. They know he's getting paid. And they know that he is committed to wanting to stay here in Detroit long term. That's why it says 5 years. That's why he's going to give this coaching staff as much of a chance as he possibly can. And when you consider the fact that he came back from a sophomore season that had his season end prematurely due to injury, to his third season in 2023, where he averaged 23, 7, and 4 on 45% shooting from the field, 35% from three, respectively. Doing this with making sure that he was the focal point of a team that, despite its record, was actually doing its hardest to give the most effort each and every game. I think Cade's obviously his potential is being discussed here once you see a deal with this magnitude, because usually I think Mike Valenti himself had made this type of philosophy, or has said this philosophy out loud. If I'm paying you for what you can do in the future, not based on what you've done in the past. I don't mind that philosophy. It does put some pressure on him, but frankly, that's the expectation that you need to have on someone if you draft them with the number 1 overall pick. I still have belief in Cade, based on, even despite the fact this is another shift in terms of the coaching staff and everything that has to be a whirlwind for a young player to try to mentally take in. But he's shown, in my view, various forms of leadership for this team, how to be as strong as possible mentally for this team, even when things were at its bleakest points. So I do have trust and faith that Cade Cunningham, with this coaching staff, being able to get on as much of a good page as possible, knowing that this is going to be a regime and an administration that's going to be surrounding him with different players and different talent that's going to be better suited to his needs, as opposed to what we've seen here as of late from Troy Weaver. Thankfully, he's gone. Now we're going to see that, what type of plan or something that the Trajan Langdon administration has in store for him, and we've seen it already with some of the free agency moves that they have made, frankly.
Yes. And then we get to the NBA draft, where the Pistons stay at number 5 and draft forward Ron Holland from the G League Ignite. 19.5 points, 6.7 rebounds per game. He can play defense, but he's turnover prone and has trouble shooting at times. But he shot 46.3% from the entire floor, just 25% from 3-point range.
Yeah, despite being a player that has, on paper, bad shooting, he's still able to be a volume scorer and get you enough points when necessary. I think his turnover ratio will be cut down when you consider the fact that he will not be the primary ball handler. That'll be more than likely Cade or another guard, with sometimes Jaden Ivey, regardless of who's running that backcourt, given when Holland's on the court at the same time. But he's a very prolific defender. He's averaged, and it showed with his numbers, where he averaged over a block a game and over 2.1 steals per game as well. And yes, he does need improvement with his shooting, but this is why you brought in Fred Vinson to be your shot doctor of sorts. We saw the work that he'd done in New Orleans. Trajan Langdon can be a personal first-hand witness of that. So now he feels confident enough that combined with what the coaches and coaching staff they has placed, this is the best that they can get out of these young players right now to show signs of improvement, show signs of a progress for once. And I think Ron Holland is the key to that because, like I said before, JB Bickerstaff will probably want to focus more on the defense. And for a player for your first round selection of this new regime, I think he kind of fits that mold of what JB Bickerstaff wants for this team.
Yes, JB Bickerstaff is focused on the defense, and Ron Holland can play defense. So that's a perfect match between the two.
Yeah, and I think with Bobi Klintman, their other draft pick, based on his size and what the size that he can potentially grow into, he can be another versatile defender for them as well. And even the plus size of that is he can also be a potential stretch big shooter for you, given the fact that he is I believe he is above average in terms of comparable stats to what the league average is for shooting and 3-point shooting as well. So while we didn't necessarily get that shooter with Ron Holland, personally, I would have liked to see him try to get a Dalton Connect. Good pickup by the Lakers, in my opinion. But still, I think Holland fits the mold and fits the character of what this team needs. Same thing with Klintman. If he's able to, again, show his development and show that he can be probably not too much, not build too much size, but like I said, build enough size to where I can see him as a versatile stretch big. Because based on some of the moves that we've seen the Pistons make in free agency so far, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a situation to where Isaiah Stewart gets moved and Klintman gets put in as that stretch four. Potentially, but I'm thinking down the line. I'm not thinking instantly.
They traded for Klintman in exchange at 37 overall. They traded up in exchange for Wendell Moore, and they got Wendell Moore Jr. in exchange for just pick number 53 guard Cam Spencer.
Cam Spencer, yeah,
with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and then just today, or yesterday, whatever, they signed Klintman to a 4-year, $7.99 million deal at an average annual value of almost $2 million per year, total of almost $8 million.
So that lets me know that they see him as a rotation player that can fit in their scheme, fit with their lineups, with what they want to do with the team. So that's already good that they already see that in him.
I can't wait to see what he brings to the table on the court.
For sure.
Then they signed undrafted free agent guard Dennis Jenkins from St. John's to a 2-way contract, 14.9 points per game, 5.4 average, or assists per game, rather. 5.4 assists per game last season.
You're going to need your your guard position to have as much depth as possible, especially if you're replacing players that you've gotten rid of from the Troy Weaver era, namely Corey Joseph, for one.
Yeah. And then aside from the draft and undrafted free agents, the Pistons traded Quentin Grimes to the Dallas Mavericks for Tim Hardaway and 3 second-round draft picks. Tim Hardaway sounds like on paper a sexy splash for the Pistons.
It sounds like a necessary adjustment for a team that wants to get known, or like I said, wants to get be known as a team that can have competent shooting around its main player, because that's what you've noticed. That's what I've been noticing with some of these additions. You're getting players with experience that know what to bring to the table of being those essential role players, the catch and shoot guys that can draw attention whenever Cade Cunningham is being double teamed or triple teamed, that type of nature. You're seeing that inexperienced guys with what they've gotten already with Tim Hardaway, and what they would get with Tobias Harris too.
Yeah, they did. So the departures, possible departures, they won't tender a qualifying offer to center Malachi Flynn or James Wiseman, according to Hoops Hype. So there they go. I would believe.
Yeah, I would expect them to not bring back Wiseman. They tried to give him as much chance as possible, but it just didn't work out.
No, it didn't work out. But they did extend a qualifying offer to forward Simone Fontecchio. So I believe he stayed for one more year.
Yeah, which is very crucial in my opinion, because he was one of the very few things that Troy Weaver did well or did positively good during his tenure in Detroit. So, yeah, keep him on for what he can bring to the table of being that reliable outside shooter that or outside presence that the team can need whenever they need a bucket, or if Cade's trying to or one of their guards is trying to dish it out to somebody. Tech is definitely a reliable player in that regard.
Yeah, that's one positive from Weaver. That's for sure. But they declined guard Evan Fournier's $19 million team option. He's an unrestricted free agent. That clears up $50 million in cap space, according to Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN.
Right.
Wowzers.
So they needed all the space that they could do in terms of making moves, of trying to get things situated this year, i.e., taking care of Cade and his contract, and also potentially over for next year as well. Because with some of these contracts that they've taken on this offseason, have the capability of being flipped at or near the trade deadline. Say the team is in contention or trying to make a push for a playoff run. They may be inclined or intrigued to take a look at to see if they have a Tim Hardaway Jr. available or Tobias Harris available, and what they can get in return for that. So, um, I understand the strategy of what's being done here. I know people may not like the names, but frankly, they're shooters and they're experienced shooters that know what to do, as opposed to the crap that we've seen the past couple of years, trying to parade itself out there as a basketball team. So at this point, you can go nowhere else but up, and that's what they're trying to do here with little phases and steps, starting with this one right here.
I almost forgot to mention they re-signed for Simone Fontecchio to a 2-year, $16 million contract. So he's
again,
back.
They see him as a long-term piece, another long-term piece for sure. They were very much impressed with what they saw last season. At least I would say Tom Gores and Art Tellem were probably impressed with what they saw last season. So they were able to lay that in. Maybe we're trading Langdon. Langdon agreed, and Tech is back. Hey, no problem with that.
Yeah. And then the free agency acquisitions. They signed veteran forward Tobias Harris, former Piston, returning a 2-year, $52 million contract, according to Woj.
Again, wow. I think to get a player like that, you knew you had to use some of that space for a reason. Tobias, even though he's played here before, played here for 3 seasons, arrived via trade, left via trade. While he's seen some decline in his play, he's still, like I said, a reliable shooter that's near or above the league average in terms of 3-point shooting percentage. And frankly, he's one of the best players on paper that Cade Cunningham has played with. This is because again, I see the theme of this of throughout most of these moves in the offseason is trying to put the best around Cade. For once, they're trying to adhere to that strategy. And well, again, this is another type of contract or deal to where it could easily be flipped for someone at the trade deadline. So it's not a long-term hit. It's not a long-term albatross kind of deal. It's something to where the Pistons try to get the most of what they can out of it. And if it works out the best case scenario, they can flip that for which is going to be a soon to be expiring deal anyway, for some assets in return. And that's the best thing you can hope for.
Exactly. And then they get guard Malik Beasley from the Milwaukee Bucks, signed to a 1-year, $6 million contract, which is cheap. He shot around 41.3% from 3-point range last season with the Bucks. That's pretty good.
And that's to go on top of him being a career 3-point percentage shooter of just over 38%. Now, remember, the league average is around 35, 36. So, again, it seems to be fitting well in tune with what they're trying to do here.
Yeah, good signing there. They were not even done yet. Just one more before we move on to the Red Wings. The Pistons claim center Paul Reed off waivers from the Philadelphia 76ers.
And that's where the move that made me think, okay, this could be a situation to where Isaiah Stewart may be expendable, because it could come down to a situation where even if they would want to keep Stu, they may not want to pay him the amount of money that he will be potentially requiring or asking to be paid. So if it comes down to a situation to where, hey, we just got ourselves a true backup center at a cheaper rate, essentially, and knowing that you become potentially expendable, that can net us more assets. Again, his is another name. I wouldn't be surprised if we wake up one day and hear the news that he was dealt into some type of multi-team package or something like that of that nature.
Yeah. So that puts all the connects the dots, puts all the pieces together. The Red Wings, they've re-signed forward Patrick Kane to a 1-year, $4 million contract with $2.5 million in incentives. It was just a matter of time, and they cleared up cap space by releasing Jake Wallman, and that left just enough room for Patrick Kane. And here are the bonuses: $1.5 million. If he plays 10 games, $2.5 million, $250,000 to play 60 games, $500,000 more to make the playoffs, and then the last $250,000 to score 60 points and make the playoffs, goals and assists combined. So Patrick Kane still has, I believe Patrick Kane still has something left in the tank.
Quite a bit left in the tank based on what we saw from him last season. I thought it was quite imperative for the Red Wings to get this type of deal done. Very much happy with this deal. I thought that, especially with what they were able to get in terms of years and money, because this felt like a bit of a compromise kind of deal. Eisman wanted 1 year. Kane wanted multiple years. Well, Eisman got his 1 year deal. And I think the compromise that he threw in, and okay, it was okay. We'll give you a bit of an overpay to give you the money that, frankly, we know you pretty much earned, but we still have things that we want to do on our end with cap space and whatnot. So let's just make it a 1 year deal. And Kane agreed to it, and that's how they were able to get this done.
Yeah. And speaking of Jake Wallman, they traded him and a second-round draft pick via the Tampa Bay Lightning to the San Jose Sharks for future considerations to clear up that cap space, just to prove it.
Yeah, other trades of that nature similar has been made as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then more, and then we get to the free agency signings. Eric Gustafson, first off, from the New York Rangers to a 2-year, $4 million contract. He's more of a defensive defenseman and not so much the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What say you about it?
The fact that you said defensive defenseman was probably an awareness to where the fact that the Red Wings did have some major issues on the defensive side of things. It wasn't just, our offense was bad. No, things had gotten bad. So had gotten bad at the way they were last season because things were so bad with your defense, which left your goaltending out to dry on most instances. So, you've got to find some ways to make better improvements to your defense. Getting more defensive-minded defensemen should be one aspect to start.
Yes, and speaking of defensemen, before we get to the goaltending, William Lagesson from the Anaheim Ducks to a 1-year, $775,000 contract. Should they send him to Grand Rapids to the Griffins, or should they use him in the NHL product roster?
I think see how he does first in Grand Rapids, make that adjustment, and then bring him up gradually.
Yeah, I would have to agree on this one. And then the Red Wings signed former Edmonton Oilers goaltender Jack Campbell, as we get to those goaltenders, to a 1 year, $775,000 contract after the Oilers cut him. Ken Holland gave Steve Yzerman a bit of a gift there.
Yeah. You know, yeah, probably a bit of a prospect goalie, a potential depth piece, and he's a Michigan native, so checked off multiple boxes on that one.
Yeah. And the other goaltender they got, Cam Talbot from the Los Angeles Kings, they've agreed to a 2 year, $5 million contract, $2.5 million split per year. Thoughts on that?
Basically, from what I'm seeing, I think even Eisman may have alluded to this himself with the recent press conference that he gave. He may feel that the way to get better quickly and to be seen as a potential contender or competitor to make deep runs in the playoffs is having enough firepower in your offense, having at least average or adequate level play in your defense, and have above average play from your goaltending. The Red Wings were able to, at some points, get decent enough contribution from their offense, but because of the inconsistencies of their defense and especially their goaltending, it's why they fell in the ruts that they fell in throughout the course of the second half, which played a part into the missing playoffs. Now you could see them implement a philosophy of, we may sacrifice a little bit more on this one aspect with our defense, but if we invest more in our offense and get better in strengthening our goaltending overall, they see themselves as a team that could without question compete for a playoff spot, and not just a last day of the year wild card win to get in type of deal, as in an actual playoff spot to contend and lock down for.
Yeah. And then finally, last but definitely not least, considering David Perron signed with the Ottawa Senators and Shane Gostisbehere signed with the Carolina Hurricanes, the Red Wings signed two-time Stanley Cup champion forward Vladimir Tarasenko to a 2 year, $9.5 million contract. He won his first Stanley Cup with the St. Louis Blues in 2019, and then this year with the Florida Panthers in 2024. How great is that?
Well, you can thank one person for that, and that's Patrick Kane, because Tarasenko had admitted recently that for the fact that Kane was on the team helped persuaded his choice a little bit in terms of where he wanted to go. So having that type of player or having that type of atmosphere being that potential drawing magnet for you to garner certain free agents that you want, that's nice. A nice ace to have in your back pocket, I would say.
Yeah. And then finally, the two draft picks that the Red Wings picked up, forward Michael Brandstad-Nygaard and defenseman Stian Solberg, both in the first round in the NHL draft, both from Norway, and both were born in Oslo. That's quite intriguing there.
Yeah,
first time in history, Norway. All right.
Yeah, might have been, but also in hindsight, when you see the fact, or in retrospect rather, the fact that Yzerman did not go for a goaltender or any type of specific different type of player, he went for what he knew this team needed in terms of fit, in terms of culture, not culture, but in terms of style for the team and what fits best for the general atmosphere of the team for this season moving forward. So. Got no problem with the draft picks that were made. You hope to see enough proper development from them soon, and what they're trying to do now with the rosters, the choices that they made is try to find a better path to the playoffs. They feel that they've gotten at least a step in the right direction by giving you better goaltender depth, bringing back Patrick Kane. Now it just comes down to whatever else they can do, such as getting Sider and Raymond their money as well.
Yeah, Brandstad-Nygaard established a record for most points, 10. That's 10 points, 4 goals, 6 assists in 12 games by a draft-eligible player in a single Allsvenskan postseason in Sweden. And then Solberg.
He put himself on the radar, that's for sure.
Yeah. He's not the only one. Solberg's 6'1", 205 pounds, a defenseman from Vålerenga in the Elite Hockey League, Norway's top professional men's league, had 15 points, 5 goals, 10 assists in 42 games, the fourth most points scored by an under-19 defenseman in Elite Hockey League in history. He'll play for Färjestad in the SHL in 2024 to 2025.
Keep an eye on him.
Yeah. This will be a good long scouting report coming up. So we're not going to grade the draft, but we're going to grade free agency thus far for the Red Wings and Pistons. So Ed, what are your grades for each team in free agency?
Just a B. Frankly, B, maybe in a B plus. Definitely liking more of what I saw from the Pistons. So if I were to see what each team, probably a B plus for the Pistons and a solid B for the Red Wings.
I would have to agree exactly for both teams. So, anybody else have a grade if anybody's watching? Well, we transitioned to Tigers. They're 46-50, still fourth place in the American League Central and 13 games back of first place in that division, and then 7 games and 4 spots back of the third American League wildcard spot. They swept the Cincinnati Reds. They oh man, let me check the schedule real fast. They took 3 and 4 from the Guardians at home, and then they split the first 2 games against the one of the best teams in the National League, the Los Angeles Dodgers. They scored 5 runs in the 9th inning, and then to cap it off, a 2-run home run by Gio Urshela to win it. Colt Keith tied the game in the 9th inning to cap off that 5-run 9th with a 2-run home run of his own. Wow. That's quite an accomplishment. That's all I know. For sure.
Definitely. And Colt Keith is one of those prospect names that you want to see as your future core pieces. Him along with Riley Green. He's proven, who by the way, congratulations on his All-Star appearance, both him and Tariq Skubal with their All-Star selections. So those are young pieces that you want to see as your future going forward. And speaking of Skubal, I really am starting to get a little bit irritated with the discourse of, we should definitely try trading him. Why? So you basically
they're not selling.
Right, you're not.
They're 46-50. That's not a selling record. I would say stand pat if you're not buying.
Exactly. Even if you were going to sell, Skubal would not be a name you should ever consider getting rid of. That is the type of player that you have that frankly that you wait out a process of a rebuild for, because you have a player like him to build around. This is easily your best starting pitcher that you've had since Verlander here. Why in the hell would you ever want to try to give that up?
I know, right? People are not even paying attention to the freaking records.
Right, and the fact that this is a team that they've won 7 out of their last 10 before this series against the Dodgers. By the way, like you said, one of the best teams in the NL, and given them the type of fight that they've given them the past few days. Frankly, they should have won that first game had it not been for the bullpen blowing an absolute gem from Skubal. And then yesterday rather, they got
with the help from mismanagement of AJ Hinch, not intentionally walking Shohei Ohtani out of all people.
Yeah, but thankfully they were able to bounce back and recover from that, and they got the win today, or rather yesterday, in extras. Keith is one of those guys that's, like I said, along with Green, should be one of your future guys to look forward to positively in the lineup. But good, like I said, good show of character by this team, because you want them to be on as steady of a pace as possible going into and coming out of the All-Star break, because as we get closer to the deadline, you want to be appearing as a team that even if you're not in buy, you're sure as hell not selling. So that's the general appearance I want the Tigers to take, or at least appear to take as we get closer to the deadline.
Exactly. The Tigers are definitely not selling. Just a PSA to all our Tiger fans out there that are not paying attention. They need to. And then finally, trending truth. This is a good one. College football is near as well. Football is near in general, high school, college, and pro, the NFL. But specifically, the rivalry between Michigan State, the Spartans, and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish is going to return in 2026 in South Bend on September 19th, and then in East Lansing at Spartan Stadium on September 18th, 2027. Just 2 more years.
Good for them. Good for both teams involved. I think it's to me, it's like one of those classic type of Midwest rivalries that you want to see that didn't need to go away for as long as they did. Now it's back. I'm good for them. Good for the sake of both Michigan and Notre Dame. It can add unnecessary strength to their schedule for both teams to say in case down the line someone wants to prove their case to the committee for a potential playoff spot to say, hey, this is who we had on our schedule early at the year. Now at this point, I'm just waiting to see when Notre Dame is going to do the same thing and restore their rivalry with Michigan, because that's all we're waiting on at this point.
Oh yeah, never forget the Wolverines and the Irish. And I remember the Wolverines in a seesaw battle in the end in 2011 when Denard Robinson fed Roy Roundtree for that diving touchdown reception with 2 seconds left. Yikes. Mm-hmm. See what the defending national champions have up their sleeve for their schedule for now. But it's not going to be anytime soon with Notre Dame. That's for sure. But at least that's what we're hoping. So those are all the teams. And now what we've learned is...
Well, what we learned is that the Tigers are nowhere near out of this season yet. They're nowhere near, or they should not be considered as sellers. They're a team that still has lots of fight in them to see what they do in terms of what they get towards the deadline and after the deadline. But I would be try my best to keep any type of intrigue in them over the next couple of weeks, because it is crucial to what they can do for this season. We've learned also that the Pistons are making moves of their own. They want to try to make as much progress as they can from the disastrous Troy Weaver era, what we're seeing right now so far under Trajan Langdon. It includes getting players that know how to shoot first and foremost, and that have experience, so that way they can be a bit of a mentor of sorts for the young players on this team to learn under and learn from and learn around from. And also with the fact that they've hired our head coach, getting things in motion with JB Bickerstaff, getting the staff in motion with Luke Walton, Kevin Burleson, Fred Vinson, shows that they have a vision of what they want to help slowly build for this team. And let me see, did I mention the Red Wings? Was there anything else I didn't mention?
Yeah, they re-signed Patrick Kane. They brought in Tarasenko, Talbot, Jack Campbell.
I was very happy to see the Red Wings bring back Patrick Kane. Disappointing a little bit that they didn't get Steven Stamkos, but when you look at the amount of money that he signed for, but when you look at the amount of money that he signed for and the amount of years, you look at, okay, yeah, that was going to be above our pay grade, unfortunately. But very satisfied, very fine, and happy with the deals that they were able to make, especially bringing back Kane and bringing in Tarasenko.
Yeah, that would be a heck of a good addition to the Red Wings offense. Also, they kind of beefed up their defense a little bit with Eric Gustafson. That's also what we've learned.
Mm-hmm. And their
defensive defenseman. Yep, and goaltending.
And some of their goaltending too.
Exactly. So that's all of what we learned in this episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. Follow the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Michigan_Truth, and like its Facebook page. Subscribe to its YouTube channel at the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. Like our videos and turn on all notifications on the bell icon. Watch each of our episodes in full to help improve our watch hours. Follow it and listen to it in audio form on Spreaker. Follow me on X, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at DT2Phillips with 2 L's. Follow Ed Smith on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitch, and YouTube at EdSmith313. Business endorsements go to Athletico Physical Therapy on Woodward and Ferndale. The B4 Foundation, Cali Tickets, call 877-225-8425 or visit CaliTickets.com. Creative embroidery of Cadillac for designing the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast logo on my long sleeve shirt and t-shirt. Cuts by Melanie in Lake City. Let's roll with it. Rolled ice cream. Like their Facebook page. Follow them on TikTok at the Food Mafia LLC and on Instagram at the Food Mafia Rolled Ice Cream. Northern Star Event Rentals in Cadillac 231-884-8195 and on Facebook. Union Barber in Birmingham and Ferndale. United Food Service Solutions of Grand Ledge, Michigan, United Mobile Power Wash and Dry Ice Works in Southfield, and Well-Being with Catherine Palms. The Michigan Sports Truth Podcast is a presentation of the Huddle Sports Network. For Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips signing off. Remember, we always observe and detect the truth about sports in the state of Michigan because the truth is out there. Stay on the lookout. Ta-ta for now. Hit them with a hind.
Be safe, everybody.